The paintings of Edward Hopper take on a whole new meaning in the age of social distancing. Hi there, I'm Jeff. JR is the producer, and this is Plain English Lesson 271. The full lesson can be found at plainenglish.com/271. We're going to do something a little different today. Instead of talking about a current event, I thought we would talk about an artist and his work. The artist is Edward Hopper, fairly famous American oil painter. His work is benefiting from a burst in popularity online these days, since his subjects are often captured alone. If there ever were an artist who captured the term social distancing and the isolation this crazy time imposes on us, it is Edward Hopper. His paintings capture scenes of solitude and stillness, individual people or couples going about their daily lives unaware that they're being observed, often alone and often just sitting still. Edward Hopper was an American painter who lived from 1882 to 1967. He was born on the outskirts of New York City and lived for much of his life in Greenwich Village, a neighborhood of New York, and on the beach in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. His most famous painting is titled Nighthawks, and it's one of my favorites. It's on display at the Art Institute of Chicago. It depicts a diner late at night on an empty street corner in Greenwich Village. A diner is a type of informal restaurant. The streets are deserted and dark. The diner is well lit. Hopper places the viewer across the street so we can see the contrast of the dark streets and the brightly lit interior. We can see inside through huge picture windows in the diner. There's a single server behind the counter, bending down as if to wash dishes. Behind him are two large coffee urns, overkill for the moment, but hinting at how busy the diner will be in the morning. We can see a well-dressed couple facing us as they sit at the counter. They could have been on a date that went long and stopped at the diner because they didn't want the night to end. They're not explicitly holding hands, but their hands could be touching. It looks like they're chatting with the server. But those aren't the people that your eyes focus on. Instead, your eye is drawn to a single man at the counter, the only other person in the painting. His back is to us, so we don't see his face. He's dressed in a suit and a hat. He's leaning forward at the counter, almost slumping forward. He's not facing the server. He's not facing the couple. He is just facing out the picture window opposite, but his head is tilted down, so he's probably not looking anywhere. You wonder why he's alone. You wonder whether he's just alone tonight, or if this is a typical night for him. That is the type of figure that Edward Hopper paints so convincingly. To look at these solitary characters is to ask, who is this person? Why is he or she alone? Is he coming or going? Is he happy or sad? And you can imagine any number of scenarios. His subjects are often not in a state of flux. They're not moving around. They're still and often alone. In Office in a Small City, we see a man in his office on a high floor taking a break from work at his desk and gazing out the window over the rooftops of the buildings across the street. Is he taking a creative break, pondering what comes next in his work? Or is he bored, killing time? We don't know. Automat, another painting, has another of his classic characters. We don't have automats anymore, but an automat was, like a restaurant, of vending machines. We see a woman sitting alone at a table. She's dressed warmly and it's dark outside. She has one glove on, one glove off, and a plate with crumbs on it in front of her, an empty look on her face. Did she rush in to grab a snack quickly so she only had time to take off one glove? Was she waiting for someone who never showed up? Maybe she just got off work and stopped for a bite to eat on the way home. Or perhaps it's early morning and she's on her way to work. Hopper's subjects weren't just solitary people. He manages to make buildings look solitary and lonely too. Early Sunday morning shows the low-rise buildings of 7th Avenue in New York City at sunrise. The shops aren't open and nobody is in view. But if you know New York, either now or then in 1930, you can imagine there were probably a few people around just out of view. Another famous painting, Gas, depicts a lonely gas station at the end of a quiet American road. This was in the days well before big interstate highways, so the road is just 2 lanes. There are 3 pumps in a row and a small building. A solitary figure is at one of the pumps. No car in sight, so he must be the employee. And you just wonder how many hours go by without any customers here. What are the interactions like when a car finally pulls up? These are great pictures to ponder after a few months of social distancing. If you visit New York, you can find his paintings on display at the Whitney Museum of American Art. There are also a few at the Met and the MoMA in New York. Nighthawk, as I mentioned, is here in Chicago. Writing this episode, I saw a lot of his works are on display in museums near Chicago, one in Des Moines, one in Indianapolis, and I thought I should take a trip and see them. But alas, those museums are all closed for now, so maybe in the fall. There are just a few days left for you to get the special discounted pricing at Plain English Plus. Members are using our extra resources to improve their listening, practice their writing, lose the fear of speaking and communicating in English. A lot of people are using it to feel more confidence at work and improve their careers, but others just want to practice so they can understand music and movies better. Whatever your motivation, Plain English Plus can help you get to the next level. You can practice listening with our special listening exercises and with the fast version of the program. You can join a live monthly call on Zoom, build your vocabulary with our transcript translations into 7 languages, work on your pronunciation with our voice recorder. That's really cool. Practice writing in our forums. Get answers to all your questions in English. There's really a lot to do, something for everyone. And until June 30th, it's all available at our lowest price ever. If you join by June 30th, you'll pay just $15 per month for as long as you are a member. And the price will never be this low again. It's a fantastic value. So if you're even thinking about joining Plain English Plus, now is the time to do it. Just visit plainenglish.com/plus, Plus, and sign up today. You guys are in for a treat because this expression is easy. You might not know it, but once I explain, you'll see it's easy. The expression is on the outskirts of. It means far from the center of a town or a city. If you look in a dictionary, you'll see 2 definitions. One means at the edge of a city, and if you believe that definition, that means the outskirts of a city is within a city limits, but out near the border. But another definition, and I think this is how most people use it, is a general location far from the center of town. It might be inside the legal boundaries of a city, but the important thing is it's far from the center. Factories and warehouses are often located on the outskirts of a metropolitan area. Why on the outskirts? Well, the land is too expensive at the center of a city, and factories and warehouses aren't allowed there anyway. If you build your factory in the middle of a farm somewhere, you might not have any workers. So it's common to build on the outskirts of a metro area, far enough away from the center of town, but still connected to the area. Some people prefer to live on the outskirts of town. Picture a smaller town, not a big city or metro area. In a smaller town, you probably have a center of town with a few shops and maybe small offices and businesses. The houses are closer together, but if you go a mile or 2 away, the houses are farther apart and the area quickly becomes more rural. The houses out there are on the outskirts of town. They're far from the center, almost when the town turns into much more isolated farmland, but not quite. Edward Hopper was born in the town of Nyack, New York, a town that is on the outskirts of New York City. It's not part of New York City. It's far from the center of town, but it's still part of the New York area. It's a suburb north of the city, but if you go much farther north than Nyack, you're in a much different kind of an area. If you go much farther north, you're not really in the New York City area anymore. That's why we say Nyack is on the outskirts of New York City. As people return to work, I think a lot of commuters won't want to take public transit. That could lead to gridlock on the streets as everyone who can drive begins to do so. The Automobile Association of Great Britain says that cities should set up park and cycle centers on the outskirts of town. They think people should drive their cars just until they get to the outskirts of town. Then they should switch to bicycles to get to their final destination. If you live in Mexico City or if you travel to the area on vacation, you might spend a day at Xochimilco. It's a borough on the outskirts of Mexico City, and it's full of canals. You can take colorful, flat-bottomed boats called trajineras around the canals, listen to the mariachi bands, and buy snacks at food vendors as they pass by in their small boats. It's a great way to spend a day. This is a case where it's within the federal district of Mexico's capital, but it's far enough away from the center to count, I think, as the outskirts. To get there, you take the subway to the very end of one line. Then you get out and get on another light rail train and take that one all the way to the end of that line. And then you will be in Xochimilco, about a 10-minute walk away from where you can rent one of the boats. So if you want a nice day-long adventure away from the center of town, you can go to the outskirts of Mexico City and enjoy a day on the trajineras of Xochimilco. Today's song of the week is Washing of the Water by the English singer and songwriter Peter Gabriel. It's a bit of a departure from his typical style, but a good song. Washing of the Water by Peter Gabriel. You can always find the Song of the Week on Spotify. Just search Plain English Playlist, and you'll have hours of English songs from JR at your fingertips. That's all today. You made it to the end of another Plain English lesson. Congratulations. Well, I should say you made it to the end of the audio portion. The whole rest of the lesson awaits you at plainenglish.com/271. And if you are a Plain English Plus member, that means you have a video lesson, more vocabulary, pronunciation exercises, a quiz, listening exercises, and much more. If you're not a Plain English Plus member, you still have a few days to sign up at our lowest ever price, just $15 a month. This price is expiring on June 30th. But the good news is, if you sign up now, you'll always get this lowest price for as long as you are a member. So head over to plainenglish.com/plus, PLUS, today and sign up.